Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to JBDC's Virtual Biz Zone, the Gift and Craft Edition. So this webinar series follows the launch of the National Craft Policy, which was launched earlier this year. And the craft policy was developed in partnership with the JBDC and aims to streamline the Jamaican craft industry by facilitating the improvements in quality, variety, value, sales, customer satisfaction, and profits. But not only that, the craft policy will also promote greater local identity of finished craft and souvenirs, innovation, better supply capability, packaging, regulation and production and distribution facilities. So this series will be looking at the different areas that covers the craft policy. And today we will be looking at building a career in the arts. Now, what exactly does a career in the arts entail? And does it only cover the areas that we know about, making some souvenirs, dancing or so forth? What exactly does it involve and how far can it go? Are there spin-offs that we can really benefit from? We will be taking a closer look at that today. And our presenter is Miss Coleen Douglas, and she's the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. Her portfolio responsibilities include public relations, corporate communications, brand development, and student recruitment. She's also responsible for media relations, including advertising, website content management, social media management, and sponsorships. She is a deeply motivated communications professional with over 20 years of combined experience in media relations and production, public relations, corporate and crisis communications, events coordination, and student recruitment. She was the Director of Communications for the Jamaica National Heritage Trust and has served as a communications specialist for various government projects, including the Jamaica 50 special events. She is actively involved in Jamaica's music industry as a publicist, having represented popular reggae artists such as Freddie McGregor, I love Freddie McGregor, and Taurus Riley. She sits on the Jamaica Reggae Industry Board as Director for Marketing. Coleen holds a ME in Integrated Marketing Communication, a BA in English Literatures from the University of the West Indies, Mona, Jamaica, and a postgraduate diploma in Arts Education from the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. So she's no kunumuna, as we would say today. And I really want to extend a special welcome to our presenter today, Coleen Douglas. So Coleen, it's over to you.
Thanks very much, Dania. Good morning, everyone. I noticed that Dania said good afternoon. It is still morning at the Edna Manley College. I'm sitting in the library.
I'm so sorry about that. My mind must be jumping ahead of the
afternoon will catch us here. But thank you so much for having me. Good morning, and thanks for those who've joined us in this conversation. I'm deliberate about saying conversation because I do not do lectures at all. I prefer to have conversations with you just for us to be on the same page and that you leave this talk with something meaningful. So, as was expressed, I am speaking to an area that I'm 100% sure that all of you are familiar with, building a career in the arts. And I'd like to start by sharing that I believe that art is life. There is this little thing I normally find, I found on Google a couple years ago, that the earth without art is just, and it's exactly what it is. You take art out of it and you get an EH. And I normally say to students, imagine for a minute you're having your birthday party. You walk into a space with the plain white walls or plain black walls for that matter. There is no music, there are no decorations, there is hardly any fancy food, and that happens. Is that a good party? And so it is important that we consider what the world would have been without the arts. And we have to acknowledge that right now the world is experiencing a pandemic. And the COVID-19 pandemic has really shifted how we view the world and how we're coping as human beings who are used to connecting with each other. And it's times like these that we turn to the arts. So what are the arts I'm referring to? I turn to books. My favorite space to go is in a book. I think it's perhaps my best space outside of music. I tell people that when it gets hard, you can curl yourself in between musical notes and get lost in that world for a minute, so you somewhat forget what it is that's going on. So in times like these, we recognize more how important the arts are. And I also think in times like these, we find that we have the development of new careers. And so that's some of what I want to discuss with you. So we all are on the same page in terms of what we identify as careers in the arts. Outside of the fine artists, what are the careers that we can find in the arts? So feel free. I am very comfortable if you have a burning question based on something I am saying immediately that you want to address, and I will stop. I'm sure that Dania will identify who is saying what. You may also put questions in the chat. I will look as well, as I'm sure JBDC will ensure that I see them and I'm able to. So the truth is that art for me is life. We've seen evidence of it. I think it was mentioned that I've been actively involved in the music industry. And so I will start with music in terms of sharing with you some of the careers in that particular industry. So I do marketing. I'm coming from a kind of literature radio background. And so I entered music industry by a kind of default, where you use your contacts to reach out to people. And so artists started reaching out to me to use my contacts to engage people for them. So I ended up in publicity. So that's one area of building a career in the arts. If you look at a musician, she mentions Freddie. So when we used to tour, for instance, you go on a tour, how big is that team? So outside of Freddie, outside of his backup singers, outside of the band, outside of the manager, there is a whole team, and within that team you can find a place. So there is a road manager, the road manager who is responsible for liaising with everybody, with the promoters of the events, with the people who are responsible for our accommodation. So the roadie will send us a message early in the morning. When you wake up, you get a text in a WhatsApp group, when we got modern, to say, we are meeting at the lobby at X time. So roadies organize all your call time and ensure that everything is okay for the entire team, not just the artist. There is also the engineer. Now the engineer is with the team because the engineer ensures that the sound is good and up and running. There are the booking agents, the person who makes sure that you are selling yourself to people across the world. So they make the contracts with people who are promoting it, promoters of events or events producers and the artists. There are also the events coordinators, and when you go to the event, you see how many people there are and who consistently look. There is the graphic designer. We do what we call an ad mat, which is really just a standard kind of design that we have. So wherever a show is, whoever is putting it on, we're able to send an ad mat to them and they just drop their information on it so that the artist's image is looking the same wherever the artist is playing. So there is room for graphic designers. So within the music industry, there is a whole gamut of careers that you can enter. I mentioned earlier on that the fine artist who is making the products, and you may not be a fine artist, you could also be a craft maker. You're making the products, but within that, how many people do you have working with you? Those are careers in the arts. The art gallery curator who is going to take your work and showcase to the world. That's a career. There are those who need art for therapy, who need art for healing. And so there is art therapy. So you can go study art therapy. There are people who might be in tune with psychology but need something else. So art therapy is for them. And of course, we are accustomed to our drama teachers, our music teachers, our visual arts teachers. So teaching again is another career in the arts where you can be a teacher of the arts. There in graphic design, there are a couple of things. You could be an illustrator, you could be an animator. There is a fashion design. Do you like fashion? There is a career for you. Maybe perhaps you don't like drawing clothes, but perhaps what you want to do is just sew. That's a career in the arts. Interior design. There are many people who would love to have their house looking like how it looks on TV and can't get it. So there is a space for someone who has a knack for it, and we can engage you in interior design. There is the marketing manager who will work with any artist, whether you're in theater, whether you're in dance, whether you're in the visual arts or music. There is the makeup artist. And what I found interesting when I don't know how many of you access the government's relief programs for the COVID-19 pandemic, how many creatives were applying but didn't have a business set up enough to collect anything for themselves, or they were not registered. But then I found out that, but wow, makeup artists really don't have much to do if things are not happening in creative industries. So there is makeup artists, there's makeup for stage, there's makeup for TV, there's also makeup for film, which can have more dramatics. I remember working on a set, and there were 3 makeup artists, 2 working on regular faces, and one, all she was doing was really creating, whether it's cuts or, so it's that kind of makeup that you were getting. So it's really, there are spaces for that. I think I mentioned visual arts and music. We can also think about the dance. So what are the careers in dance? There is dance choreography, there is the dancer themselves, there is when you look at a company like NDTC, there's a wardrobe mistress, there are singers in it, there are people who are simply stage managers, and the same goes for theater. There are filmmakers, and in film, the trick is I generally watch shows until the credits all flow, and it's usually very amazing for me how many people are working on just this tiny film, whether it's a driver. And the truth is, you may find that a lot of persons who choose careers in the arts may be doing other things, because some of the jobs that we choose are seasonal. And so you may find that you're just juggling. When you're on a film set, it may be for 6 months. What happens to you the rest of the 6 months? So there are many careers in the arts. What I'd like for us to talk about is following our passion. How do we determine what it is that we like? So I knew from early that I liked the arts. I was also stronger in the subjects that were considered arts, whether it's history, literature, those kinds of subjects. And so I leaned towards a career in the arts because of what I was better at school. And more importantly for me was what made me happy. So careers in the arts must come with some kind of passion. And I say that because the road for an artist is not usually easy. And a lot of us define happiness by how much money we make. And it's easier to feel happy when we're comfortably off, but we're making a lot of money. And so it eases a lot of things. And so we may define a career based on that. A career in the arts may not necessarily start there. We can get there, obviously, but it doesn't always start there. And so choosing a career in the arts would mean that we must make some kind of plans. So we start with the basic talent. Someone who can sing, often we identify that you have a great voice from church or home just singing. Someone who can draw, you identify that as well from early. But there are some who over time learn to do things because they have observed someone doing it. So one of the things I say, you do not have to enter a college to develop a creative arts career. That's the truth. But I believe that as an artist, we have to believe in the principle of lifelong learning. And in as if even if you are self-taught, then you're constantly learning, whether you're learning through videos, whether you're learning from a mentor, whether you're doing short courses. So there is no prescription that to be a successful artist, you must do a 4-year degree in the field that you've chosen. But I wanted to stress education and training because I work at an education and training institution, and to just for us to consider what are some of the things that you're getting when you educate yourself. So if I were to use myself as an example, my first degree is in literature in English. So initially, I really wanted to go and to teach literature to anyone who would listen and would love to read a book. I ended up in radio just so I was somewhere at an event. I think it was Shaggy's Platinum Party. I was working in the PR tent because they wanted a writer. And I met two radio personalities who said, oh, I think you do good in radio, come. And I said, I'm not trained. They said, you can learn on the job. So I kind of ended up in that career by default. But after a while, when I got a full-time job in government, it was in communications. And in as much as literature allows you to write well, to be able to draw on references, I recognize that in order for me to do well in marketing, I had to go and get some training in the field. So I ended up going to do, at first, a certificate in marketing and sales, to the point where I went to do a second degree, a postgraduate degree in integrated marketing communications. What has that taught me? It has made me more aware and more conscious of what are the things that I should look out for. Now I see marketing as a science. So whatever career you choose in the arts, there is a science to your own craft that you can develop based on education and training. So the first thing I would say, and again, because I work in music industry mainly, I can make references to that. Many of our managers sort of learn on the job, but there are many things that we don't often look out for. So there was a morning I was watching there's a Netflix film that's based on Obama's life. I think it's called Barry. And while I was watching the film, I was recognizing that a lot of the songs were Jamaicans, at least 7, and most of them were on the Studio One record. At the time, I was working with Freddie McGregor, and there were 2 tracks in it that were Freddie, that were done at Studio One. Freddie was unaware, completely unaware, that his songs were featured in this very popular film. I remember calling him at about 6:15 Jamaica time, and he's like, no, I don't know about that. Can you tell me the title of the song? So I moved to the end of the movie just to get the credits rolling and saw that it was Studio One Records. And shortly after, perhaps in another 2 hours, I received a call from a fancy lawyer's office in New York to share that they want to transfer some money to Mr. McGregor, as well as to discuss a contract in terms of use of music. So, and that was something I never considered, that there is a job there where somebody could simply be monitoring that kind of thing so that your artist is monetizing. You could also be pitching your artist's music to filmmakers and so forth. I'm looking in the group and I'm very curious. I have to ask, because I'd love to get a sense of who you are, if it is that you are, and we could write it in the chat. If you write in the chat, just indicate in the chat whether or not you're a visual artist or a musician, or which area of the industry are you, or if you're simply into arts management like myself, so that we could speak a little bit more specifically to you. The point I was making earlier on, though, is the importance of education and training for the artists. Things are constantly changing, and I think COVID-19 has forced some of us to, they call it pivot. I was a netballer, to pivot and identify new ways of being, new ways of, of marketing our products. So firstly, I say to people as a marketer, the first thing I say to any artist, whatever kind of artist you are, whether it's the one without the E or the one with the E, what is the product that you're selling to the world? How do you make yourself known? So there are, most people think that artists are the happiest people on earth, by the way. Most people do not realize the burden that that artists face. Thank you, Akele. Anika John is in music and visual arts. That's an interesting combination. Um, I'd love to know some more, as in what area of music are you interested in and what area of visual arts? So let's be very, very specific so we can speak about it and how you develop. Now, a career in music can start at different levels. You do not necessarily have to start at Edna Manley, but you start somewhere. It also starts with a talent. Do you have the talent? Are you able to play an instrument? Are you able to sing? What can you do? Having identified the talent, I say to you, how do you hone this kind of talent? How do you make it good for yourself so that you can take it to the world? Oh, wow. Gavin is sculpture and architecture. That feels like it's bigger than me. How do you make that relevant to the world? Because at the end of the day, if it is that when we say career, a major thing about career is that we are making a living from it. So it's more than just your passion now, it's monetizing our passion. Um, so it is first ensuring that you have a product to start with. So it doesn't make sense we're going in music if we can't play an instrument or sing, unless it is that we've determined that we want to be in music business or music management. Great. Sherry wants to do video production and YouTube. Um, so video production is happening. And how can a video producer help not just performing artists, but also the visual artists? And for visual artists, I find your presence is a little bit weaker online than our performing artists, perhaps because it's simpler for them. They sing a song, they get up and they dance, or they make a performance. So it may be easier to do. But the visual artist, can you imagine if you were able to create videos that showcases your process so people can understand? So sometimes I will go to a craft fair and I see a lovely piece that I really want. And then I'm told that the piece is for $23,000. And I'm like, that pair of earrings is for $23,000. And I will stay there. The artist will let me know that it's handmade and we'll go through the process. And at the end of the day, I will believe it's a $23,000 well spent because I've been introduced to this artist's process. So how do you share your process online so that people appreciate that it's not just a simple 1, 2, 3 you do, but you know, there is a process. You pay for your material that you're using and you figure that out. How do we do that? And so it's great that Sherry has shared that she's able to assist in video production. How do you monetize YouTube? Because that's another thing we have to always look on. Simply posting on social for the purposes of posting on social is not often the answer. We have to make social work for us. I'm seeing Anika is exploring pattern art for stationery and textile and would also like to study music production. I didn't even mention music production. Way before live shows became so popular, it was always music production. And so the producer and the engineer who are laying the tracks and who are making the tracks work were really, really very important. When we sort of shifted from the vinyl culture in Jamaica, musicians started making less money, but the producers never stopped producing. We shifted to CDs. Now we've shifted to locating produce track online in different platforms, whether it's Spotify or iTunes and so forth. So, so the first thing I'd say in creating your arts career is identifying your passion, and two, deciding to make your passion your passion or your talent now. How do you study to make it better? And so we choose education and training. Reliability. One of the biggest complaints I get when I try to represent any kind of artist, so let me talk about the visual artist or whether you do fine arts or craft, is supplying demand. You have a product that is great, and for some reasons, as soon as you make a couple of them and we get them sold, because that's a marketer's job, and now I'm getting orders in, you're unable to supply demand. So if it is that you're going to make a serious career out of your art, then you must be able to be reliable. So it therefore means that you have to work out as a part of your business model. How is it that I'm going to make sure that I'm able to create a production line that I'm always supplying? Because when people start to rely on your product and you're not delivering, they become disappointed. I remember only recently I started getting daily juices from somebody. And when the for about 4 weeks, I was getting my juices every single day in a glass bottle. And then after a while, I stopped hearing from her. She said, oh, people are breaking the bottles. I'm not getting them back. And I'm like, then go plastic and talk about us being responsible, or give me some reward for me to take back my bottle so you can refill. So I take 5 from you. I'm having 1 a day. I should drop them off, you knowing that you're going to sterilize. So somehow working out that business model that you're using to ensure that it works is going to be important, because the worst thing is a disappointed customer. You come back on the scene, they're not necessarily going to trust you anymore, and will not. You just don't have any more customers. So if you're going to market with your craft or your fine art or in any of the performing arts areas, it is important that you determine how is it that you supply demand. How do people know about you? How do you make yourself known? How do you build this? We talk a lot about brands and brand building, and I think one of the biggest thing about brand is showing up. What is it that you're bringing to the table all the time? And is what you're bringing to the table consistent? But do people come now to rely on? So there are certain designers that I will always wear because I know when I go, the fabric is nice, it's of good quality. What do you call that? The finish is looking good, and I don't feel like in the country we used to say, a lot of your clothes look like you come from a dressmaker, which is suggesting that the finish is not refined enough. So all of those, creating a standard for yourself becomes very, very important. So once you have a standard, then people are going to know what to expect of you, and they're going to choose you over the ones who do not necessarily have the same type of standard. So consistency, reliability is very, very important. How do we budget time and money? How much is the business going to cost? I've had the pleasure of watching my 18-year-old create a little business for herself where she's doing skin products, and watch her calling around, finding out cost, asking friends what kind of packaging they prefer, opening her bank account and getting prepared for the market. And then she said to me only recently, Mommy, you do marketing, can't you assist me with marketing? And I give you some shares. So she's worked out her model, and she's determined the kind of look and feel she wants for this brand. So it's important to, so many people, I'm going to use Arm Candy as an example, the original Arm Candy. I think she's perhaps more expensive than a lot of the other beads that I see people selling. But then more often than not, I go to her, I think her name is Jenna Fakuri. I go to Fakuri because she gives me something that looks finished. when she drops her arm bead in the box that looks like a candy, I don't have to go out and buy another gift pack, looks packaged. And so your packaging becomes important if you're doing your craft, you know, if you're selling your things. What is it that's your distinguishing factor that makes you different from everyone else? And that's hers. So I purchase it because it gives me that. There are some, every time we have an award, I say to people, can we just use local artists to create these awards? And the first response I get is, we won't get it on time. They won't be able to produce all that we need. We need 200. They may be able to give me 50. So how do we up this kind of ante to ensure that we are producing enough for the market? There are times I find, so I mentioned my daughter earlier on because I was watching her and looking at how she does her pricing. Sometimes I find that we do not know how to be underpriced or we overpriced. We often lose that. So determine how much time you've invested in what you're making, comparing it to market value. What is it that others are charging? Is anything different about yours that I would want to pay more for? And then you put your price out. And having put your prices out now we're sure what it is we're getting from you. And I'm very mindful that it takes years to build a brand. There was a time when I didn't represent new artists. I found that new artists needed too much work to get them out there. And if I'm going to call a radio station to say I'd like an interview for Freddie McGregor, no one tells me no. They want to hear from him. But if I call and say, I have a new act who I'd love to, oh, send me the music, let me listen to one. So understand that it takes time to build a reputation. It takes time to build a catalog. It takes time to build a brand. Building a brand doesn't happen overnight. And even for those of us who are not the hands-on artists, who are the people who working in the background or who doing the business, you yourself, you are a brand. People are going to choose you to do their PR. People are going to choose you to do their graphic design only because you've created a reputation of reliability and consistency for yourself. Now, another thing that you can do as an artist outside of, I mentioned at the top of the presentation, outside of going to a training institution is to find a mentor. So if it is that you're making pottery, are there potters around that you could go and learn from? Do you like your style? Is there a painter around that you appreciate that you could go and learn from them? Musicians do it a lot. Musicians tend to mentor each other. Old producers take on young producers or young artists and work with them. So I think that's another way of how you create a career in the field. Also, how do you learn? So I work with a lot of publicists who are not located in Jamaica. So I have a sister who is in New York who knows the tri-state landscape. So if I have an artist who I'm working with for Jamaica and the Caribbean and sometimes the UK markets, I'm able to say to her, I need you to assist me with the US because she knows that landscape. She's built a network for years in that space. So I find arts careers is a lot of collaboration. I live in a community that has a lot of artists, and what we've learned to do is share our different skill sets. So if I am good at marketing and communications, and you make a neck piece that I can wear, then how do we trade? How do we share our skills with each other so we can advance each other? So collaboration is another thing. And I find in as much as I might have been in my field for over 20 years, there is consistent need to just stop and reevaluate and see where you're at. So I recognized for a while now that I am not the best social media person. I don't know how to make the post fancy. So I've now come to realize that in order for it to be done, what I'm good at is coming up with a social media strategy. I can tell you what to say, I can tell you what image to choose, but I don't want to be the one to post it. Therefore, there is another opportunity for someone else to build a career just in social media marketing or posts. And that's a whole new field that everyone's tapping into, especially now that the world has stopped and we're all online. So you find that new careers are coming. Multimedia is far more popular than it was a year ago because of the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you, at this time, earn from your art? You clearly, people are not coming into shops. People are not coming into your studio. There are no art fairs for you to go to and showcase your work. How do you then sell this work? Everyone is shifting online. Are you online? How do you grow your audiences? I think that's a whole topic that we could discuss in another space. How do you grow your audiences on social media in order to really benefit you and get your product sold? So I remember when I took over, when I started doing PR for Freddie, it became important for me to sort of realign his social media brand to match what the traditional media was that was going on. So VP Records had it. And sometimes when you're with big record companies, they have to choose, you know. You can't have two of the same artists, they're going to prioritize one. And so when we took the social media over as in an in-house big ship managing their own social media. And what I found out, I was able to go into the back end as an administrator and determine where his audiences are. So social media is going to help you with that. When I go into the back end for Edna Manley College, for instance, I know that most of the students coming from, most of my queries are coming from the Caribbean, but it's specific areas in the Caribbean. They're in Antigua, they're in Trinidad, they're in Barbados and St. Kitts. I also know that next to that Caribbean interest, the next set of audiences are in Jamaica. It even gives me gender disaggregated data. I knew, for instance, for Freddie, that the majority of his audience was actually in the US of A. So we were able to create a summer tour around those areas that the demographics were showing on his social media platforms to be very popular. We also recognized that he had a large following in Kenya. Over 30,000 people were from Kenya alone. And so when he went to Kenya, of course, you're going to have a sold out show. So it is understanding your audiences, using the big data, the social media data, all sorts of data to inform how you function. So even as someone who is creating gifts and souvenirs, what is it that people travel with? Who are the people buying? So you collect this information and I use that data to inform how you move forward, how you can pitch your products based on what the market needs. And if you're not finding out what the market needs, then perhaps we're wasting our time when it comes to monetizing, because we make things and they're not moving from our studios or our shelves because we never did the adequate research. So arts careers and all the information, when we speak, JBDC has been pushing more than any other agency in Jamaica, this orange economy. And so there's no need for me to dwell on the power of the creative industries and the potential of creative industries to earn money for us. We know this already. And so if it is that creative industry is doing so well, it's important that we consider careers in the arts. And I want to do a shameless plug of the Edna Manley College and talk a little bit about what you could possibly do here as to strengthen your arts career. So I'll just share this video with you. I hope you're seeing my screen, which sort of highlights some of what we do at the college, and then we talk a little bit about those programs and how you could access. The Kingston Jamaica is because we used it for jumpers overseas, college marketing. Thank you. I'm very unaware if you were hearing any sound, but if you weren't, I hope that the images spoke for itself. So really, that's just a glimpse of what happens at the Edna Manley College. Just in case you do not know where we are or what we do, the Edna Manley College, was founded out of all the schools coming together in 1976 on this campus at 1 Arthur Wynne Drive. We shifted here. All the schools existed in their own spaces. A school of visual arts, school of music, school of drama was under Little Theatre movement. And when Jamaica was hosting CARIFESTA, it was recommended that we have all the institutions together under one umbrella as a cultural training center. And so we came together right here. This location where we are was actually the grounds for almost like a rehearsal space for performers at CARIFESTA that particular year. So the college has been around for over 40 years. Some of the schools are older than 40 years, except in the School of Arts Management that is a little under 15 years. All the other schools are just about 40. The School of It's very interesting that last week I was doing a launch for Mystic Revealers, and Kat Core from Third World was there and mentioned that he had training with Henry and Greta Fowler, and I've never heard anybody outside of Edna Manley's space mention the Fowlers and what they were doing with the Little Theatre movement at the time. So with the opportunity for all artists in training to be in one space makes it a very, very special space. So when we say we're the first and only one of its kind in the English-speaking Caribbean, we're not just using it because it sounds good on the tongue, but rather because it is the truth. There is no other college like this in the English-speaking Caribbean. And what makes it special, it's because we have a mixture of the visual and performing arts as well as arts management in one space. What does that mean for any student? It means that you're able to collaborate with other artists. A visual artist can be working with a performing artist at any stage, whether through graphic design or photography or fashion design. You could be working with any of the performers. That's what the space is generally about. So the college started offering degrees in the 90s. We're now an accredited institution under the University Council of Jamaica, very well recognized internationally as offering BFA's program in any of the areas I mentioned. So the School of Visual Arts is our oldest and biggest school. We have been offering programs in visual communications, which includes the graphic design, illustration, animation. We have the fine art programs. We still have painting, we still have sculpture, we have jewelry making, all of that, fashion design under the textile department. So we have textile and fiber art as well. There's also printmaking, as you would have seen. So the School of Visual Arts will have a wider array of areas. Now, I'm going to speak specifically to the four-year degree programs first. Then we have the School of Music, and I kind of speak to the schools in order of how they came. The School of Music offering degrees in performance studies as well as teaching education. So there are teacher education degrees over in all the performing arts school, as well as there's an art education program at the School of Visual Arts. In visual arts, I should share that outside of the BFA program, we also have a postgraduate diploma in arts education. I did that program in 2014. So that's something that teachers or persons who are teaching and not qualified as teachers, as in you don't have a teaching diploma, that's a one year to 18-month program that you could do, and you become now a trained teacher, but not just any trained teacher, but a teacher of the arts. The School of Drama has programs in acting. You could do acting track, you could do the technical theater, and you could also do the teacher education training. So too for School of Dance, you could do dance performance or dance choreography, or you could do the BFA, the teaching degree program. The School of Arts Management clearly offers a degree in arts management, and it really is managing the business of arts for those who are not necessarily practicing hands-on art. All the programs are under 4 years. For anyone who wants to do them full-time, you need a minimum of 5 CSEC or its equivalent. So whether it's CSEC you have, or any of its equivalent from, what did I do, GCE subjects or City and Guild, once it's the equivalent based on our education ranking systems, you are able to enter, but English is compulsory. English is compulsory. There is a general English test that you do, which really tests how good you are or how bad you are, and we're able to place you in special programs. We have a writing center in the event that needs some development. For the performing arts schools, you have to audition. So whatever you are choosing for drama, there's an audition. For dance, there is an audition. And for music, depending on your instrument, whether it's your voice or piano or any of the instruments you can think of playing, you have to go through an audition process for that. For the School of Visual Arts, they ask for a portfolio with your work. Thank you, Ingrid. I see that Ingrid liked the video. It was completely done by amateurs. It was done in-house, so I appreciate that it was good for you. Thank you. Now, in the event that you're not interested in coming in for a 4-year degree program, there are programs that are offered on a semester basis, which is a 10 to 15 week programs that you could register for in any area, and they have the visual arts will have different levels. So you could come in at entry 1 for graphic design and move up to level 3. Your credits are also transferable if you ever decide that you want to pursue the full-time degree programs. So all of our short courses are offered through the School of Continuing Education and allied programs. It's very easy to find us. We are online, emc.edu.jm is our website. Forgive us, we have some work doing on it, so it's not perfect yet. You can also call us at 876-619-EDNA. That's 876-619-3362. You can also reach us on all the social media platforms. We're Edna Manley College on IG and Facebook, and AMC_Jamaica on Twitter for those who prefer those platforms. We're generally very responsive on social media because we don't want to shame we. So we're generally responsive if you want information. So right now, if in any of the areas where the college is offering courses from technical theater to film, not filmmaking, I'm sorry, to photography or so forth in School of Visual Arts, you're able to do those on a part-time, short-term basis. I think that's where I stop. I'm open now. It's almost an hour. For me, it's 10:52, so I'm open for questions. It doesn't have to be a question. It could be something that I said that you don't agree with, or something I said that burns. I'm throwing to the moderator. Just want to pick up. Please say the time frame for the full-time degree program in art. It's 4 years. It's 4 years because it's more of the US system. So the University of the West Indies and perhaps NCU, no. UWI is the only one who asks you for A levels as your entry. You must enter with your CAPE subjects. The rest of us, Edna, UTech, and so forth, we take 5 subjects. So it becomes 4 years as opposed to the 3 years at the UWI program. So it's 4 years for all the programs. All the full-time degree programs, that is. Yes, Dania.
Well, I just want to say, Coleen, thank you very much for your presentation. It was awe-inspiring. And in terms of some of the areas that I really had some questions ahead, as you already covered some of them that I plan to ask you. So I'm not sure if persons will have a whole lot of questions for you today, but indeed, Ingrid Cook has said excellent presentation. So if you have any additional questions for Coleen, please go ahead and type them in the chat, or you can click on the icon indicating that you want to raise your hand, and certainly we will address whatever issues you bring to the forefront. But Coleen, I really love the fact that you touched on some pivotal areas as it relates to arts, and more specifically the gift and crafts sector, because I think within even now, as we try to navigate what's happening with COVID, it's a touchy area, because especially as it relates to entertainment and persons who are associated with that industry, it must be a very difficult time for them right now. So as we look into how we can be multifaceted, I really love the fact that you brought up some good areas such as networking and collaborating, and I think that that definitely is a way forward for everybody now.
And if I may, Dania, one of the things that I think we've always been weak as a nation in is intellectual property and copyright.
Definitely.
I think this time when we've been forced to pause for a minute is perhaps important for us to learn more in those areas. And there are many opportunities outside of JBDC platform where you can learn a little bit more about copyright and IP. So I call it a downtime, but it's also a time that we learn and upscale for creatives.
Definitely, because there's the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office that is responsible for protecting local intellectual property rights in Jamaica. And so definitely as creatives, we encourage you to engage with JIPO so that you can get additional information, because Coleen, you brought up something that to me was very good. Just recognizing that sometimes your material or your work can be utilized out there, and you could be actually earning income from that, from the experience that you highlighted with Freddie McGregor. So it's good when you actually have your work protected, so that in the event that persons want to use it, you can benefit and earn from that. And that includes the images for our visual artists as well, not just the performing arts. So I'm not seeing any additional questions yet. As I said, your presentation was very thorough, so don't be surprised
No, that's fine.
if
That's
you're
fine.
not seeing a lot of questions here today.
Fine. I'm seeing Ingrid sharing that it's important to register with Jam Copy. I think it's important wherever you are to register with, if you're a musician, to also consider the JCAP. So
Oh, yes.
protecting all your jams and so forth. So all of that is going to be important that we register. There is also, if I may, there's an entertainment registry for those who are in music and music production. And so it's important. Sherry, it is fine to ask your question audibly since it's a little long. So you could go ahead. It's okay for her to open her mic.
Yes,
and
it
go
is.
ahead.
Abby, can you just open up the mic for Sherry Ben so that she can go ahead with that question, please?
Thank you so much. Good morning, Coleen.
Good morning.
Awesome. Happy that I am being heard. Okay, I am very new to video production. I have an idea. To me, the idea is awesome, of course, but I'm not sure how it would play out. It involves getting an artist such on the caliber of Freddie McGregor. Based on your experience, how would you recommend I go about reaching out to someone to be a part of my video? And it has a message to it, but it's also about education and entertainment in the video. And you don't have a budget to necessarily afford the quality and the level at which they are at. But you know it would be a very good project for outreach and for bringing across a message. How would you recommend I go?
You kind of just sold it. I think philosophically, people, it's really selling. It's really a sales pitch you're doing. And it is true that the artists with years on their show, on their sleeve, like a Freddie, it's easier for him to just take up the phone and call, because it's also years of building relationships with other people. So you too can also build your relationships by finding out where the production houses are, go by, meet people, introduce yourself to people, come to Edna, hang with the music students if that's the field you're going into, hang with the young artists, see how they are. For me, it's a lot of networking, but it's also contacting people who are already in the know, sharing your idea with them. So I'm not even going to tell you that your answer is going to be yes, depending on who you want to. How does your brand align with them? So you might be looking at an artist, you may be doing dance hall and somebody want to just do conscious reggae. So that person will never come in your video because it doesn't necessarily align with his or her brand. So you have to also think about that. Who is it that you want to be associated with this brand you're building, and you take it from there. The truth is too, I don't think that there's any problem in asking. A few years ago, before I knew a lot of artists, I just said, I remember approaching Freddie. Freddie didn't approach me. I approached him. Initially, I said, I'm not saying that not happen on your social media. I don't see you doing anything locally. What's happening? Don't you have a PR? And him say, no, I really want a PR. But let me talk to somebody and I get back to you. And he did. So sometimes you can simply reach out. Chronix will tell you that he's currently one of his managers now. She did just see man like him and say that I'd like to manage you. And he thought she was so bold. So ask, be comfortable with your work, with the quality of your work, that you can reach out to people, and also try and identify the individuals who are more into mentoring young people. So a producer like a Mikey Bennett is always mentoring young musicians. So go to Grafton, call him up, and he will facilitate you, and that will sort of take you to places. So just be bold enough, be confident that your product is good, and determine who you want to associate with, and just engage them. Thank you, Glenys. I see that she's also sharing that JIPO registers trademarks and logos for products, yes.
Right.
There is actually a nice search that they offer you. You can do the search online, or you can pay for it, go in and get the search done so that you know the name is not taken. Chantal, I see you, Chantal, doing your marketing. Just because you can go email info@jipo.gov.jm, or you may call 946-1300 or 946-0789 for anyone. The name again is Mikey Bennett. Mikey Bennett is with Grafton Studios.
And I'm happy that Chantal actually put the contact information there for JIPO, because I'm seeing where Nastasia Barnett had asked about where she can get to patent her designs, and JIPO is the best place to consult with that. So
perhaps the only place to.
Right.
I'm seeing a question from Gary as well, Dana. Does Edna Manley do animation videos for people privately? Thank you. He's saying he loved the presentation. Thanks for that. Do we do animation privately? So the college, we are a college. And one of the things that I don't like to fool people with is, you may think that we have the answers for everything and we can take part in every project. The truth is our students are here reading for a degree. And it's harder for them because they're not just reading, they're practicing their degree. And so a lot of times we get a lot of requests for all sorts of projects and we're unable to fulfill them. And they'll be like, Edna, now go on with nothing. At the heart of it, we're a college. And that's really what our core service is, to provide education for artists or for artists in training. So I'll say that first. There are, however, opportunities for students to work on specific projects. So if you have something in animation that you want animated, you can always email marketing@amc.edu.jm, and we will be able to pass it on to the relevant department. So the School of Visual Arts in this instance would determine if it's a project they can or cannot take on, and let you know. Animation is special and very, very time consuming. So it's also something that students may not be able to engage within the college framework for JBDC and their internal system. So I hope I was able to answer that, Gary, but feel free. I'm going to put the contact details for the college in the chat. So we are 876-619. Please go and follow Edna online, by the way.
Is that Facebook and Instagram, both?
For Facebook, Insta, we tweet too.
Okay.
Perhaps not as active as we are on IG and Facebook.
Okay. All right, Coleen, while you're typing the contact info, I don't know if you can multitask with that, but I just wanted to ask you, because I feel like the gift and craft sector sometimes, people say, you know, it could help if they get a little bit more training, because I think our local craft persons, they're very creative, but sometimes we tend to just follow what the other persons are doing. And we don't necessarily develop distinct products that, you know, are unique. And as you say, you find your passion and you determine if there is a market for it, so that you can actually make it, well, it can be monetized, basically, based on what you were saying before. But how does the Edna money, I know you referred to some semester training for some areas like visual arts, or visual communications, but are there any areas that can perhaps help some of these craft persons who are out there, you know, designing the craft? They may have that natural born skill and passion, but they just need that little, you know, training to bring it over the top in terms of the finish or so forth.
Again, I think it depends on what you're using. So I don't recall seeing anything at Edna working with wood, for instance.
Okay.
So perhaps we would not be the best place for that, but then sculpture may be able to assist. So if you're working with wood, you could perhaps consider that department. but the programs that we offer every semester under the continuing education school tells you what we're able to offer. So there is an opportunity, but let's say we do not have it on our regular programming, but we have professionals here, artists here, who is able to do that. There are workshop potentials and perhaps relationships with a JBDC who work directly with craft. So let's say you notice that there are some skilled people in a particular area, but it needs refinement. We have the facility at Edna where we're able to go and do specific workshops for specific groups. So we'd be able to go to them, because I'm very conscious too that Kingston isn't Jamaica, and there are people all across the island that we may need to engage. So there is that, we call it the corporate support program. Under the corporate support program, we're able to package things for specific groups and go to them.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. Actually didn't know about.
Oh, thanks, Chantal. I didn't know that. Apparently, I sent the contact information privately. How did I get you privately?
Maybe because you responded. You may have responded, yeah.
I might have responded to her.
Right, but I'm seeing it now to everyone. It's sent to
I just did. I just copied it to everyone.
Yeah.
I just copied. Well, it's always one of two things. Either you're very excited for your speaker to stop talking, or the speaker was that good that you have nothing to say. But I am very conscious that you go up until 12. So if it is that we want to just converse about our own areas and open our mics and just talk about what it is you're doing, anything that you might want to share with the others or in the group about how you make your arts career work for you, that would also be very helpful and appreciated.
Well, if they definitely want to talk, they can definitely raise their hand via the icon that's there. And then from there, just ask Abby to open up the mic so that they can go ahead and make that statement. So that will have some order to it. So if you want to speak about your specific experience, you can. But in the interim too, I'm passionate as well about the local gift and craft sector, and I just believe that in terms of that sector growing, it is important to recognize also that gift and craft is not as traditional as before. You know, what do you think about that? Because I feel like there's so many unique elements to gift and craft now, and so many opportunities that are opening up that people can actually use as gifts that can still highlight brand Jamaica and our cultural diversity. But I think in terms of developing careers, we can explore different components outside of the traditional craft.
You know what I find we never have here? I remember the first time I went to England, my first stop was Shakespeare's Globe, because I'm a fan of Shakespeare's work. And I remember going to the Globe, and it was fascinating for me the number of gift options they had. And it's really not unique gifts, you know, but using what is unique to Shakespeare on regular things. So fridge stickers, I have music be the food of life play on my fridge, or, you know, good friends, good wine, good company, welcome. Those are Shakespeare's quote that I end up sticking on my fridge. There's nothing as uniquely beautiful as the Jamaican language, for instance. But how do we use the language in ways that are simple? So even those fridge stickers that people like to carry, because one of the things, think about when you travel and what you want. So when you travel and you come back, people are expecting tiny gifts, and sometimes not, but you want to share a part of your journey with close friends or colleagues. So you want small things that are easy to carry, that are affordable, and you don't have to be a key ring. Like if somebody gives me another key ring, I'm gonna scream. Like you don't want another key ring. Find other things that people find useful. Little buttons, little tie pins. Those are the things that they're not necessarily unique in what it is, you know, but it's what you do with it as a Jamaican that will now make it interesting. I always wonder, why is it that we don't have enough access to puzzles, to card games, to those things that are uniquely Jamaican, and we have a creative sector. So we can consider using, you know, sort of shifting tangible and intangible around and using that to sell, because people are also moving more. People are moving more, they are traveling with less. It's becoming more expensive to carry a lot of things on aircrafts. So what do you do? How can you make it easier? So when you look at our craft industry, sometimes the things are kind of cumbersome to travel with. So consider that you're not just packaging for locals, especially when you're doing things that are sort of indigenous to our space. The locals might not want it. So, and in marketing, we call it search and spin.
Search and spin?
Yes.
Okay.
You go and you search for what is happening in other places and what other people are doing, and then you spin it to suit you. I think craft industry can also do that. What are other people doing in other parts of the world? What are they selling? So I always share this with people. So when I used to travel with artists for summer, my summer was exciting because, you know, when you do the Europe circuit, you're going to 4, 5, 6, sometimes 10 shows in 1 month. But we would all do Sumfest in Jamaica. Then you leave for Europe, and it's always good because Sumfest is in Mobay, and the cheapest flight is from Mobay to, you probably go Brussels and then kind of manipulate yourself from there if you want to do a little show hopping. And what fascinated me, I remember there was a year I really never saw Protégé locally, and I thought I will catch Protégé in France and see how he's on a, but there was a little hurricane and that never happened. But when you walk into the venue the next day, it was like there wasn't any weather condition the day before. What though was appealing was how they used our culture. From you enter the venue, the selling Jamaica and the selling Jamaican, from the food. As a matter of fact, that year they had a Jamaican restaurant center. They carried Jamaicans in to create a real Jamaican experience. But you could also buy things. I could buy a mat that I was going to find useful in the festival because the show, you want to sit down. So how do we make things for our own space? I didn't get most of the things I got there at Sumfest.
Oh, okay.
I got more from the European shows than I got locally. This is Cherise is saying that she do crochet bags, crochet slippers, sock, shoes, leather slippers, leather belts, crochet souvenirs. Knowledge in marketing allowed to get my business off the ground. Okay. So crochet is almost what we call, I'm from rural Jamaica, beyond Mokoso, very deep. And people thrived on those things. When a baby was being born, the best gift was a nice crochet shoes. Tap into that, tap into what it brings back some level of nostalgia. And also be mindful that people have more access now. So the competition is there. So a lot of times for marketing, most of us can't afford traditional media ads. We wouldn't survive, it's expensive. It is the direct engagement that works. So you could say, how do you engage a university hospital of the West Indies, their maternity section specifically, and say, I have these products for babies and I want to leave my flyers here. How do you engage the doctors, the gynecologists who are having these kinds of clientele? Do you go to the stores who sell baby stuff and probably say, I could sell some of that? For the items that are adults. So for me, it's always identifying what's your demographic. You look on your pricing. Who would buy this? Who are the people wearing leather belts and carrying leather bags? Who are the people who are going to buy the crochet bags and slippers? What time of year will they sell more? And build your messaging around it. So if me give you any more advice, so you have to go pay me because that's what I do for a living.
Well, just to add, not even to cut you, Just to add that, you can also consult the JBDC to get additional support and information, because it would be good to be able to hire a Coleen, because I'm sure she will take your brand and business to the next level. But you can also remember that we have the Things Jamaican stores as well. So you can think about perhaps seeing if you can get some of your products within some of those shops, which actually provides a market to some travelers, because we have them in the airports and so forth. So it gives you very good exposure. So you can consider as well, Charisse, if you can actually get your products within Things Jamaican, or just consult with the JBDC as well for some advice, some free advice. And then perhaps later on, as you start to grow, you can hire a colleague to bring you to the next level. Yes,
no, I have to tell you though that I have gone into private business, and JBDC was my go-to, and it was what I remember paying even for what I got was probably my best spend ever. So it is true. It's there. It was set up for you. So start there. But when I say search and spin, though, use it. Look at what other people are doing. How do you create a story around your brand? Where are you from? Who are you? What is it about you? What made you start doing crochet? Is there a story? Why do you want to use it? I remember there was a student who was using cloth for jewelry, and I have a lot of her stuff, Celia. And I remember asking her, why did you start? She said, oh, because I was allergic to so many things. So is your story different? Is your story making you stand out? Create your story, and sometimes we make your story better than it sounds because of how we tell it. If I say to you that I'm from Clarendon, that's not interesting, but I could tell you that I am from a community beyond Moko. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Me have to pass Moko to go home. So you're gonna wanna know, is there actually such a place? So find your story and sell that story, and learn how to write it. I say to people, practice like you're doing an interview when you're talking about your products. When somebody asks you, what is it you do? What is it that you sell? Prepare it. I prepare myself so much. You ask me who I am, I'm gonna tell you in 30 seconds, only because I say it to myself so many times in my car driving on my own. So it's important that we build your brand story and know your story, so that your story and seem authentic. And some stories are not real, you know. And I'm not suggesting that, because authenticity comes out only when you are being honest. The next question, does Edna offer courses, workshops on design?
Hold on one sec, Coleen, before you jump to that. Let me just do a follow-up, because I see where Ashley Hutchinson was asking about the process to get into a Things Jamaican store. And they generally, prior to COVID, they had screenings that they would set up with clients to review the products. So I am unsure if they're actually doing that now since COVID, but you can definitely contact the JBDC and ask to get in contact with the Things Jamaican stores, and they will direct you as to how perhaps they can facilitate the screening process and explore perhaps getting the products within the stores if they're still doing that at the moment. But our numbers are 876-928-516125. So that's 876-928-516125 if you want to contact the JBDC pertaining to the Things Jamaican and the screening facility. So go ahead, Coleen, please. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, that's fine. Perhaps you could also put your details in the chat. Does Edna offer courses, workshops on design? We have courses in interior design as well as fashion design. Head of that department is Laura Lee Jones. So again, you can simply go to the website or send us a message on IG or Facebook, and we will send the information to you, Ingrid. Email today, and we'll send you in terms of cost and so forth that you're able to get. Are you still hearing me? I just saw that my internet connection became unstable.
Yes, we're hearing you. We're hearing you and seeing you.
I'm interested to be a voice actress in animation. How do I get myself out there in the field? Start with some voice lessons. School of Drama offers that. So you can start there. Oh, we got the Things Jamaica question. Sharice is saying thanks. Okay. Okay. That's it. We're having an early day.
Yes. I mean, generally we don't always go up until 12, so it really depends on what's happening.
But it's your block.
Yes. So as I said, you were very thorough, and some of the areas I think it has given people an opportunity to consider some areas that they may not have thought about before. Ingrid Coke had asked, she's in specifically craft design. Hold on, she had asked.
Ingrid,
oh, she's asking about the courses or workshops
craft
on
design.
Craft design.
I think I said earlier on that it is going to be very specific. So for that, I would recommend you speak specifically to School of Visual Arts. So again, you can ask the question and I connect you with the Dean, Miss Smith, and she could work it out because that's her area. I would pretend if I tell you that I know so much about visual arts and craft design in particular. So still reach out to the marketing at AMC and I will connect you to her so you can speak directly to her on that subject matter. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions right now, but if you have any last minute questions before we wrap up, you can just go ahead and type it in the chat or click on the icon indicating that you want to raise your hand before we wrap up today. But as I said, Coleen, was a very good presentation.
I am also on IG and Twitter as CD Publicity, and I am on Facebook as my name.
Okay.
And I'm generally pleasant when you ask me a question. If you refer to this specific conversation, I'm able to respond.
Okay. Well, I'm certain, please go ahead and follow Coleen because I'm certain with the advice that she has given you today that she will have tons of advice if you engage her on how you can move forward in some of these areas she highlighted. Right, Glynis Young is saying, Coleen, very good presentation, very informative. Thank you, hoping to see persons at JIPO. So I figured that Glynis is also from the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office.
Yes, Glynis is, yeah.
So Ingrid Coke is saying she has been following you, actually.
Right, Ingrid, I'll look out. Hi, Tanisha. Thank you.
Right, OJ Morrison is saying good presentation.
From Frame Art. Thank you.
Yes, and Frame Art definitely is a great place to access your frames and so forth. But just in case you missed any of the presentation that Coleen did when she started out earlier, you can remember to check out our YouTube page, JBDC Jamaica. It will be posted there within a couple of days, and so you can always go back and look at the video, like it of course, and please don't forget to subscribe to our page, and you will also have access to all the other content that we have posted there, previous virtual biz zones, as well as JBDC in concert and the entrepreneur's journey. All of those with a whole host of information is available on our YouTube page, JBDC Jamaica. Okay.
Thank you, Carol.
Yes, great presentation. So you see, everybody's backing me up. So I mean, you know for sure that it was a very good presentation. So I'm not seeing, right. And Shelley Daly is saying, Coleen, you are an excellent teacher. I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation, comprehensive yet concise indeed.
That's because I get tired easily, Shelley. And a little bit of laziness, but thank you, I appreciate it. I hope that we've gathered something. Most times when you speak, if we're sharing and you haven't gotten anything from it, then I would have failed miserably. So I remember starting out, Daniel, with your permission, just speaking about art is life, and we've seen how art brings life to the world. I spoke about how in these times especially, that we rely heavily on artists and on art to really give us some reasons to be. So we looked at the different arts careers the different arts careers that we could go, that we could tap into, what we offer specifically here at the Edna Manley College. I did say that you may contact Edna at 619-3362, and you may go to our website at mc.edu.jm for any additional information. I'm also online, available for anyone who wants anything about careers in the arts, at CD Publicity on social media. Take care. Thank you for having me, Dani, and thanks to JBDC for the invitation.
You're welcome, and it was certainly our pleasure to have you here today. And if you need to contact the JBDC, please don't forget that you can do so via any one of our social media platforms as well, whether Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. You can check us out, our website, or you can send us an email at info@jbdc.net just to get any additional information that you may need on how we can assist you in developing your businesses well, or taking them to the next level. So Coleen, again, it was a pleasure today, and we hope that we'll definitely have you in another platform, you know, sometime soon, because I'm sure you have a lot to share with persons. So until next week, we will definitely be looking at another interesting topic, JBDC Virtual Biz Zone, the Gift and Craft Edition. So please don't forget to tune in next week, Thursday, and check out whatever content it is that we will be providing for you at that time. So I'm seeing where Anika John is saying, thank you, this was helpful, have a good day. And Sherry Bent is saying, very insightful and helpful. And indeed, it was insightful and helpful. And we look forward to all of our participants today being a part of our session next week. Look out for what that will be on social media, in one of our social media pages. So until then, please be safe, take care of yourselves. Thank you again, Coleen, and please be safe and take care of yourself during this COVID season. So until next week, goodbye.